Week 2, Day 1 continues here at the Gold Team League. As you can see on the screen, we're going to have RNG Lise taking on VK Diana. It is great to see another VK player. Both these teams are 2-0, as you can see there on the left-hand side. XHX, the new arriving player for VK. Diana has been doing very well internally in Chinese tournaments, making 3 top 4s in Gold Masters last year. And Lise we have seen come 3rd place in Masters Tour Seoul in the West, and also has a storied history going back many years in the Chinese scene. The lineups, both players have brought Demon Hunter, the Demon version, so with Priestess of Rage, etc. Galacon Priest and Pain Warrior. Diana has brought Highlander Mage, and Lise has brought Highlander Hunter. And I know the Warriors are not banned, but I don't know what is banned. I'll get on to that to you. Oh, it's on the left hand side. Demon Hunter is banned for one, Priest is banned for the other. I keep forgetting that. Either got inserted or I noticed it for the first time earlier today. So Demon Hunter taking on the Priest here. A decent matchup probably for the Priest. Not because it's necessarily a good matchup. It's around 50-50, maybe even slightly favoured for the Demon Hunter. But it's a good matchup given that you've got to try and beat it with something. Although with Warrior, maybe that's not the case so much, but you don't want to queue your Mage into it. So, yeah, maybe a middle-of-the-road matchup, maybe a little bit jumped the gun there. And as you can see, the story here is Lise not trying to overcommit too much, putting enough damage on to keep the pain coming, but also keeping enough back. But does have the absolute perfect curve coming up here. Priestess of Rage, this is pre-nerf. And when reduced to 5 mana with a Fell Screamer, this could just end the game. Not even joking. I don't think it's going to, but it is certainly possible. Apotheosis, though, in hand for Diana. All he has to do is stick 1 minion. And you don't even sometimes have to stick a minion. You can put it on the Pyromancer. And it does damage. The Pyromancer gets lifesteal. The Pyromancer does the damage. So it's definitely a thing that can happen. But down to 21. And the Priestess is just going to shoot so much damage everywhere here. And look at the follow-up potential the turn after. With Kayn and Satyr as options. Double I-beam to blow things out of the way if needed. This could be a very quick lead indeed for Lise. Okay, every cast is a nightmare. Plague of Death and Mass Resurrection. The Plague of Death is the one in the middle. The Mass Resurrection is the one on the left-hand side. But when you're only looking at corners of cards and casting costs, sometimes those cards just ruin casters. I have been ruined by it many, many times. So, Priestess is deathed, and Diana's still on 20. Picking up of Altruist, though, now gives Lise another set of options. Try to get a bit more damage in. How do you want to use the Altruist? It's usually better if you can get yourself a Skull of Gul'dan to go alongside it. I believe this is the turn to make the Satyr, and then follow up with Kayn next turn, depending what happens. You do have double I-beam available next turn. They will both cost 1 if played in the right order. Obviously, taunts won't get in the way, but again, Apotheosis is the big deal here. And Diana is going to likely get some tasty, tasty value out of this. So I'm looking at Pyromancer, Apotheosis, then Renew on the Pyromancer. That'll do 2 damage to the opposing minions. And once you've got the Satyrs out of the way and a Priestess, you're getting there pretty fast. You then have to worry about maybe Gladebound Adept after that. But instead trying to keep back in case of emergencies, the Pyromancer play. So again, this can be dealt with, but the longer this goes, the more the priest can start to get into it. Must deal with every minion, that's one of the issues. Otherwise, the healing that the priest will get from the apotheosis just becomes ridiculous. It only really has to connect once, possibly twice. Healing for the likes of 10 is just game over so often. Plus, how do you deal with a 5/9 dragon, should that matter? So Diana doing a good job of keeping his options open now. Forcing Lise to actually play the part of the aggressor that he's meant to play, and then reacting accordingly. But he's forcing the aggression to happen in the way that he wants it to, on his terms. Forcing this trade here is great. Lise not going for that. I like this a lot. This is protecting his board, using the I-beam for some good use. Not getting distracted too much by the altruist option. And that's a time rip. A very timely time rip, I might add. The priest's dream, though, as we saw attempted with the Fate Weaver last turn, is to try and stick a minion. If they can stick one decent-sized minion, especially if it's got the lifesteal, but even if it hasn't, then the Demon Hunter really just can't get over the finishing line. But at the moment, this one's still in the balance. Started to go the priest's way, I would say, but definitely not over yet. That Plague of Death in hand will be a big deal. And it's slowly but surely running out of ways to develop. Forced to play the Cane now, which is fine. It's a good card. It's going to do damage, but again, it's not on his terms really anymore. He's having to deal the damage in the ways he has left rather than the ways he would choose to. But Mana Burn looking pretty good. He's going to have to get it all done next turn though. Very, very close to it. I want to see this Apotheosis come down now on the Pyromancer, to be honest. He now knows his opponent's hand. He now sees the problem he's going to have. As it stands, it isn't lethal, but it's a lot. And a pickup of half the deck here for Lise would just be lethal. He'd push damage next turn, try and force the Plague of Death that he doesn't even know is there. As Diana is going to get, obviously, a little bit of healing here. But yeah, a Skull would probably end this. Diana, it's impressive. The difference between a good player and a very good player is often in the how long can you hold on to your cards? How brave can you be? But calculated brave, not crazy brave. And holding on to this Apotheosis is looking like calculated brave to me. Good players would have used it with the Pyromancer to clear the board earlier. I think that would have been absolutely fine. But Diana's going to get more than that. He's going to keep his options open longer than that. As the Skull is ripped off the top. And Lise now is going to have an amazing turn next turn. Although that's not... That's fine. I was going to say it's not perfect. But it is pretty close to being perfect. He's even deciding whether he wants to play the Sigil Runner here. Obviously, it looks great. It's got the Outcast, but is it better next turn as a zero-cost, likely damage-dealing minion alongside Altruis? And don't forget the Priestess is there as well. Next turn could be so much damage. So yeah, just clearing out all the expensive stuff in the hand and setting up... I don't want to count it. I never want to count it. But a lot of damage from Altruis, especially counting the Priestess. The Angry Priestess, as my translation says, which does make me happy. So going digging with the Renew. You're never going to get to use Mind Control. You've got to pick one of the two cheaper spells for sure. Going for the cheapest of all. The Mind Vision. He knows something's going on. He also knows what one of the cards is. He knows the Altruist is there, if I remember correctly. But mainly he just wants things that he cannot play right now. Here we go. 16 required. It looks like 16 won't get done. I don't know, actually. He clears the board. He does 4 damage from cards in hand, possibly 5, depending on what happens with his Sigil Runner. 3 from the weapon is 8. 1 from the hero power, which he can't do, so still 8. Kane, that's 9. And the 7 for the Priestess is 16. This caster makes this lethal. I might have been wrong, although I'm going to get lucky. It's definitely lethal with the slice. It's easy lethal. Least takes a 1-0 lead, and it is last hero standing. It's a big deal. Demon Hunter left up. And Warrior as well, by the way. Banning out the Priest, which I'm thankful for. I don't want to cast a Priest nerf, fun though they can be. Because they take hours. But yeah, having Priest and Warrior available is a massive deal for me. We've seen in Grandmasters just how ridiculously dominating Warrior is. Like, in the mid 70% over an entire season dominating. And the only reason Demon Hunter isn't dominating by that much itself is because it sometimes has to play Warrior, as we're going to see now. And this is such a good matchup for the Warrior. Slowly but surely, people are getting different ways of playing the Demon Hunter. They've realised that the early game against the Warrior, whilst sometimes gets it done, and the exact texture of their hand really matters, is not necessarily the best way. The ways you tend to beat Warrior are a little bit of early pressure, but then you back it up with those 5 and 6 drops. You make a board of 2/2s after you've made the Risky Skipper. You play an Adept for 4 and then back it up with a Metamorphosis, or Metamorphosis, depending which part of the world you are from. So I'm going to stick to calling it meta most of the time to stop the comments. Feel free to comment below. But Warrior has got the key card, that Corsair Cash, and the Risky Skipper. I mean, the two sort of go together. The Risky Skipper with Bomb Wrangler is just a huge deal. It stops the Demon Hunter from being able to make a big board. However, this Demon version, Priestess version of Demon Hunter, does have a little bit more chance against Warrior than the more accepted, the tempo version, the post-nerf version that is used more, but even before the nerfs was being used a lot. Because the Priestess can just win the game. Sometimes the Warrior cannot deal with it. It relies on poking around, maybe some bombs, maybe a hit with a face. You don't want to take 6 from a Priestess by face tanking against an aggressive deck. It's just not where you want to be. There's a lot of places you don't want to be, and that's one of them. Because it's just difficult for the Warrior to do the 7 damage this used to be. But having the Bomb Wrangler is a big deal. And no Fell Screamer reducing the cost of the Priestess is also a big deal. Something that isn't talked about enough, for me at least, in this Warrior deck, and that's partly because we don't get to see it often. It gets banned an amazing percentage of the time in Grandmasters, is how good the lackeys are in this deck. They do so many little things. They turn some of these mediocre minions. I'm surprised they didn't swing there, actually. Not because there's anything particularly useful to do, but there's still 2 more weapons, another cash in the deck. And I was just saying about how useful the lackeys can be. They just do all the right things. Everything about the deck synergizes with the lackeys. You don't mind getting a dragon, you don't mind being able to shoot enemy things, you don't mind a 1-drop just to throw under the bus to help your risky skipper. And with that in mind, I'd have liked to see a swing there, personally. But obviously there's a lot of things you need to take care of in Demon Hunter, so I understand it. But also, if you're swinging into Demon Hunter minions 3 times, like bigger ones than this, you might not be getting there anyway. But maybe he just felt that for the next couple of turns he won't be using the lackeys anyway. So why bother? Now, I would like to see not risky skipper here, personally. This is fine. This is absolutely fine. This takes control of the board. But you can lose this now. Not very often, but when this is dealt with, you haven't got your Ankar, you haven't got your second skipper. Something, well, not something like, almost precisely a Satyr into a Warglaves can generate a board you now cannot deal with. The Warglaves will eat up all the minions. The Satyr will generate lots of 2/2s, and you currently can't deal with that. However, this is, getting control of the board early. This is a thing you see happen a lot. It's usually fine. Just not my personal preference to go this early. In fairness, as well, to Diana, if this isn't all cleared up now by the Demon Hunter, and it's likely not to be, next turn would be insane. And also, he didn't have much else to do. I may have had to play a Bomb Wrangler with my method and then create a dragon, and that's not ideal. Maybe this is just fine. But now we get to see whether it is fine or not over the next few turns. Which is a little bit harsh, because Lys does have a very good hand for taking on Warrior with. And if he wins this, he's only got to beat the Mage, which is kind of the reason people don't bring Mage very often. Like, you don't want to play against Demon Hunter with it. So Lys could be in a position, if he gets this one going, where he can win 3-0, but Diana is showing another way to win this matchup, which is just hit the Demon Hunter. Don't sit around messing around getting armor and trying not to die. Just hit them, and that gets rid of a lot of the problems I've been talking about. Very close to lethal next turn. And I'm comfortable to say he has played this better than I would have. That's why he's in an important team championship. And I'm here talking about it. That being said, a lot of what I said does stand. Lys still fighting nicely for the board. Diana not in the best of positions, but not actually. I say he's not in the best of positions. Is he actually in the best of positions? Has he got lethal? He's got 11. I think you put the bomb into the 6-4 here. There's a 1 in 8 chance it goes face for 4 and gives you insta win. Like, just straight up, you have won the game. Yep, this is better. Ah! Bomb first! Okay. So this way guarantees the bomb does damage to face and wins over 2 turns. That's what he's going for here. I was being rather greedy, but this is fine. He doesn't lose this very often. Yeah, this is fine. So I was going for the 1 in 8 immediate win, but he's just gone for the let's win the game over 2 turns by forcing the bomb to go face for some damage, but missing some face damage out with his weapon. He's aware that it's very hard for Lys to do 12. It's almost never impossible, but it involves Altruists, and Altruists versus Armor Smiths don't really get it done. Yeah, perhaps it is actually impossible. At least with known lists. And Lys gonna get it done with his warrior. We could end up with a warrior mirror. I like warrior mirrors. We haven't had one for a while. Possibly, at least in my opinion, the most interesting match in Hearthstone at the moment. Although Demon Hunter mirrors are quite interesting as well. There's a lot of nuance in both those mirror matches, which is weird, right? Because mirror matches tend, as Lise does give it up, super play there from Diana. Again, showing why VK are being touted as one of the favourites for this tournament, despite being one of the newer teams. And we haven't even seen their star player, the world champion Lion herself, yet. I presume we'll see her in week 3, as things have like a soft reset going into week 4, and players can then play again. You can only play once in each phase of the tournament. Each phase lasts 3 weeks, and there are 3 phases. Warrior Mirror. Let's do this one some justice. There's several ways of playing this. A lot of the time it just depends on your hand, which obviously is the least exciting thing. But these are pretty similar hands. Both got Corsair Cash, and you start making decisions right from the start. Let's have a look at the builds. As you can see, Lise has the egg, and I believe this is the version, as I just pull it up. Yeah, he's got injured Tolviers and eggs. Only 1 Corcoran, and he doesn't have a Grom. So the onus is kind of on him to be the aggressor, all other things being equal. And the thing with the Warrior Mirror is things aren't always equal. There's a lot of other stuff going on. You sometimes have to just play your hand. But on the other side, Diana for VK has got Grom and double Corcoran. Still has the Tolvier, but no eggs for Diana. So again, the slightly slower build, but can combo out. And so the onus is on Lise to get this one done. Nothing wrong with doing the damage to the opposing face. It feels a bit weird because you... Just looking at this play. It feels a bit weird doing damage to the opposing face because you think, oh, well, what about Battle Rage? But the short version is the damage gets done anyway. Everybody has a weapon. Everyone's trading into things. It almost never saves a card. There are sometimes small cases where you don't want to attack for 1 point of damage if it's not going to get you anywhere and you can see they're struggling. But pretty much always you just take the damage while it's there. At least in the mirror. Not necessarily in some others. So Diana fishing for the risky skippers. One of the very important things in this mirror to note is when you've used your 2 risky skippers, you probably lose. Again, all other things being equal, and there's a lot to this. So the 2 ways you win are smash your opponent down really early on with Inner Rage and Rampage and just smack them really hard. Or you can go the value route with Battle Rage. They're the 2 acceptable ways. I actually think there's a 3rd way that I have used successfully, but against lesser opponents, of course. As we see Lise going for the smack them route, and we've already said that's the right thing to do. Which is the fatigue route. Like, just absorb everything and run them out of stuff. It can be done. But that's a pretty tough way of doing things. But sometimes the game just goes like this. Your opponent makes a lot of tough stuff to deal with, and if you don't deal with it, you lose the game. Titanic Lackey does give Diana some sort of game plan. You see the Titanic Lackey when you're behind and you start thinking about how to use your mercenaries with it. He's trying to find something a bit beefier than his current hand here to play down. Captain's okay, but it's not really enough. Yeah, that'll have to do. Like, for 5 mana, 2/2/3s and a 3/3 is an okay turn. One of the things that also you can do is you can go quite low sometimes. Again, depending exactly why you're low. But with Lise only having 1 Corcoran Elite and a no Grom, Diana can go sort of to 10 health or something and still recover with Armor Smiths. Does have a hand that can change around very fast with the Bomb Wranglers, with the Mercenaries, with the potential to Battle Rage a huge amount here. Still got the weapon. But also, he needs it. Because Lys is just smacking around at the moment. It's quite difficult. Like, you want to go face, I think you will, but you are scared about a massive opposing battle rage. Like, really don't want that to happen. Does decide to tidy it up. I think that's okay because he's got other stuff to play. Yeah, it's fine. He's got the Brute in hand. That will make a big difference. As long as he starts going face soon, this is fine. Because what you find is that otherwise the opponent does manage to get rid of one of your 3/8s, and suddenly everything just slows down and they're still on sort of high teens of health. And then they do draw their battle rage and nasty things start to happen. Egg's really good protection here against the Bomb Wrangler. I say really good. It is a kind of protection. It's certainly a deterrent. Do you really want to try and bomb these? What if you hit my egg? Well, just don't hit the egg. Stupid. There's a lot of damage available here. It's kind of what I was talking about. Just picking on one of them. And when one's cleared up, the world gets a nicer place. There we go. Diana just deals with one, and although still behind, although facing down quite a lot of damage, and that's just got so much worse. First of all, the Brute to tidy up the board, and then Inner Age Corcoran with the potential of a Mercenary coming off the top soon. That would be a 12 damage turn. Gives Lys a decent game plan. 1 in 9. Or 2 in 18. For the Mercenaries soon. At least isn't getting behind anytime soon. On board. Diana does have a nice hand though. So less important than last turn to kill these minions because the 1/2s last turn are really good bait for Risky Skipper, play a minion, play Battle Rage, draw so many cards. But when they're 1/1 minions, they just die and Battle Rage just doesn't really affect them. So the only relevance of these minions, other than your opponent has minions on the board, which is something you don't want to happen, the only relevance in terms of combos are Armorsmith points. And yeah, just finally get around. He both kills off the minions and gets the 3 damage to face. And gets his ordering correct on the bomb. Nothing worse than setting that all up, playing it the wrong order, hitting the bomb, and the bomb just blows up your plan. So Diana now going to make inroads into this. Using the Mercenaries to generate a whole pile of bombs, which should be able to clear up most of the board. And this is something that everybody should pay attention to. Look, this isn't necessarily a combo deck. You can inner rage 6/1s, you know, and look at the board he's got. And now Lys has to work out how he wants to use his Risky Skipper. Would love to not do it. Like I said at the start, the person who uses 2 Risky Skippers first tends to be the one who loses. And you can picture that. Look at this board. Now imagine that Lys did the same thing. And then Diana had to do the same thing to clear up the board. Then Lys gets to be the last one to do it. And he would be the one who ended up with the big board. Obviously, it's not that trivial. You've got to have the cards. You've got to make it work. You've got to play Hearthstone. But on the basic level, that's where it's at. Would have had lethal had he had the Inner Rage available for 12 damage now. As it is, he does have 10. Wait, hang on. Isn't this just lethal with Skipper, Corcoran, or has the 3-6 already attacked? I might be losing my mind here. I'm so confused. This is the joy of solo casting. I think that Skipper, Coin, Corcoran. And then Mercenaries would have given him 8 points of charge damage. Anyway, he's still in a good spot. Should get lethal next turn. But now has a 6-9 taunt to worry about. It still gets... He's got 2 to worry about. This is where I wish I could, like, call on production to rewind for me. I failed that last turn. What I want to just emphasise, and then I will check and look how silly I look when you all tell me how silly I am in the comments, was Risky Skipper, Coin, Corcoran. The Corcoran gets injured down to 4-2. You then copy the Corcoran with the Mercenaries, which goes down to 4-1. Everything goes face for 14. Trying to get my concentration head back on here. Double brute here for Diana. Really difficult to get through for Liz. Not only that, but it's sort of threatening to change the game around in its own right. And this is crucial, not just because the winner will go 2-1 ahead, but it's that last hero standing. The winner will still have Warrior. In Diana's case, he'll get to take on a Hunter should he win. And in Lisa's case, he gets to take on the Mage should he win. And both of those are fine. So the winner of this one to go 2-1 ahead has a very strong chance of winning the match 3-1, taking their team to 3-0. There is also a Battlegrounds section to this event, which I'm not covering. My Battlegrounds abilities are not great, let's say. And so I will just be concentrating on the scores within this section of the game, at least for now, until things start becoming more fruity later when we get towards the end of the Team League. Then I will try and get for you the relevance of each game in the context of the Battlegrounds setup. So this also looks like there's a lethal. There must be a lethal here. Risky Skipper. Play the Corcoran. Corcoran goes down to 4-2. Injures everything. Oh, but the Armor Smith is bad news. So probably no lethal, but you do get to kill everything and play a 1-mana Brute. But your opponent gains so much armor. This is no fun. Because when he copies the Brute with a Mercenary, the Corcoran will explode. But I still think this was correct. Yep, put the Corcoran in there. And decide whether you want to face tank, which you don't, I don't think, because your opponent has a weapon up. So yeah, you definitely don't. Really close. This board is good, obviously. Diana's out of stuff. Diana's not out of stuff. Diana's now about to turn this game on its head by having his Brute versus nothing. Didn't swing first. Don't really think that matters, but for one of the few times you actually like getting the Evolve Lackey here. Just turn your Brute into a random 8-drop. Sometimes you get Natalie and it ruins your life, but usually you end up well. Yeah, no option here for Lise. You've got to kill it. Needs to get something that generates value. That's not it. It needed a spell or a dragon, really. Angry attacking eggs are not it right now. But then neither is Diana's hand. It's going to be the first person to draw something. Diana gets first go at it, and his deck is more heavily packed with cards that do stuff. Still got 2 Corcorons left and a Grom. Lise is out of all that. Has none of those things available. Just going to triple check that because it's so crucial, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, just the 1 Corcoran. Okay, gets a spell. This could be huge. Can't remember the name of it, but the 10 mana card gets you 2 minions from your deck and puts them into play. I think that's worth it. I mean, he hasn't got much good stuff left. But even double Bomb Wrangler or double Tolvir at this point is something. Next turn. Of course, he has got cards he can play this turn. So he's going to trade in here and then rampage up to have a 4/4 egg. That's okay, because the egg, if he gets killed, leaves behind the serpent. Maybe that's better than my play. Yeah, this is better. This guarantees something in its own right. Bomb Wrangler, just put your things on the board. Diana, he's still holding that 1 risky skipper, and Bomb Wrangler seems a decent counter to that, although getting spells is better. I think that's Shield Slam. Might be worth taking. It's amazing how seeing things in gold with the writing that I am not trained to understand. My Chinese, unfortunately, is just terrible, which is embarrassing for me, but there you go. Apologise for that. Yeah, that is Shield Slam. And that slows Diana down a bit more. And Lise is almost safe. Grommash will still win the game, because that's why he's keeping the Ribski Skipper! And he gets it off the top. He's had a few draws at this. And in fairness, he could have used the Skipper earlier to clear some bits and pieces up. But he draws the Grommash. And he stunned me anyway. And that's 2 games to 1. And the heavier the... I mean, there was nothing in it. That was down to a top deck war. But it also did come down to the heavier build winning the later game. Albeit very, very close to losing it. And now he gets to take on the Hunter and is in a fantastic position to just win this match 3-1. And remember, he left up Demon Hunter and Warrior, and he's beaten them both. And Highlander Hunter is... it's like a benchmark deck. If you're playing Hearthstone in your head and you haven't got any cards, and you're trying to work out if your new deck's going to work or not, you picture Highlander Hunter. It does a thing on turn 1, it does a thing on turn 2. None of the things it does are very exciting, but it does them. And it can be a bit naughty with some of the Highlander cards, like Bran that he has in hand. But it's just steady. And one thing this Warrior deck does is it destroys steady. That being said, far from an ideal hand. The hands where you don't really get a battle rage, you hate casting this. Have to do it, but you love to get it for free. But avoids the bait, just gets it on the board. Sometimes you just have to pretend cards don't have text, because they always have numbers, and the numbers are what matters. Yep, Lise getting control of the board, has got a really tasty curve. And Diana's hand, a long way from ideal. Again, no messing around with the Battle Ragers trying to get himself injured. The Hunter's going to injure you pretty quickly. You can see that already. And Liz here not using the coin to coin out Whelp. Basically telling us what he is going to do. He is going to coin Bran on turn 6. And he is going to throw a dinosaur straight at Diana's face. A big 8/8 dinosaur. Just trying to work out whether it's worth swinging. One, because the battle rage. Now, I talked about this earlier, actually. Sometimes you don't go face. I think this might possibly be one of those instances. Point of damage is very relevant. You're trying to beat them down as quickly as possible. But your opponent is stuck with nothing to do. And that usually means they're stuck with battle rages in hand. And I, for one, I think would not have attacked there. I'm not making impossible reads here because I'm casting. Like, let's see his reaction when this is played. Didn't seem to care. I guess the upside is your opponent spent 2 mana cycling a card doing nothing. And if they're doing that, they're not killing you. Be interesting when it gets to the end of the game to see if that 1 point of damage is close to being the deciding factor. Obviously, it won't be the exact, precise 1 point deciding factor that often. That's not a fair judge. But, you know, if Diana's only dead by 1 or 2, or only survives by 1 or 2, let's have a look how close it gets to mattering. So, Lys was going to just play big old Whelp here and get on with his life. But picking up the Swampoos definitely gave him a lot more to think about. Especially with the weapon being Ankar, because that is the way to get risky skippers. But continues with the plan, which is do lots of damage. Diana has to face tank 5, but is now going to start the process of trying to reverse this board. And it's not going to look pretty. Going to get to draw some cards and clear up the board. And he's going to hope to just restart this game with a better hand. But he's going to be restarting it with 11 health if Lys gets to shove a dinosaur in. Maybe less. So the Tolvir can be taken care of with a weapon plus the locust that comes from it. Then he has to decide what to do about the skipper. He can also just corrosive breath and play the dragon, clear the board that way, and set up Bran for next turn. But I think he just wants to get an 8/8 on the board. There's no executes played in any of these decks. You can find them if you get the right lackey, but that's about it. You just want to start pushing the damage in and force Diana to work out. Yeah, Diana's not happy. You saw the seat shuffle there. And that was the difficult part of the turn, where to put the 5 from the Whelp. And chose to put it into the skipper. That was the hardest decision he had that turn, personally. He'll be clicking into the next game. So there's a possibility this is going to just become a hunter versus a mage. Is there any way to actually... I mean, there's ways to not die here. I think. I mean, yeah, okay, so there's ways to not die. They're just no fun, like skipper into Warm Wall, I think, gets you the chance to play down your brute, and then you can inner rage your brute. Yeah, this. And then you can trade into the dinosaur and you're alive, but But are you? So Corrosive Breath is 3. Hero Power plus the bits we can see is 5. That's 8. No actual finisher for now. So is it just Corrosive Breath and Rottennest and ask your opponent to deal with all this again? Except this time with no risky skipper. You're on 28, they're not going to counter combo you, which is exciting by the way, because Grom plus these Inner Rages is 14 that we can see. If he gets to 10 mana, he gets to add 3 more to that and do 17. That's how quickly this game can turn around. And it may be a reason that Lys is a little bit reluctant to put down the Rottennest. Maybe he just develops the worm. The Rottennest is like every fibre of my natural Hearthstoning tempo play, but yeah, there's reasons not to, maybe in some worlds. Alright, but going wide as well with the ooze and saying, look, you just can't deal with all this nonsense. And it looks like he's going to level this up at 2 games apiece to me. Turns out that when you put two 2-0 sides together, neither of them just folds up easily. But Diana just got an awful, awful draw this hand. And really that's how Warrior loses, is when it just gets the bad draws. It doesn't get many of them. So here we go, this is always the final throw. Try and get yourself a lackey that does something. Maybe you get a brawl from a spell. And he gives it up. 2 games apiece here at the end of day 1 of the second week. Lys and Diana is going to be the Hunter taking on the Mage. Hunter in a good spot here. Mage very good at freezing and generally fiddling around and making you not be able to attack later in the game. It's pretty good at holding on early too. Hunter pretty good at hitting you for 8 with a dinosaur. Pretty good at having a magic button that ticks you down by 2 a turn. Pretty good at avoiding secrets that buff you up by 8. Just ice barriers. And apparently pretty good at drawing Bran. Diana does have Zephyrus. It's a huge card. It's going to enable him to ramp up into those key 8 drops. Presumably. I assume he's not going to try and fight the board. Not really how the deck's built. Yeah, it takes the wild growth. And it's what you don't want to see if you're in Lys's position. But what you don't want to see if you're in Diana's position is a giant 5/7 nonsense coming at you. And that, my friends, is a giant 5/7 nonsense. But most players have to get used to this. He's got the rolling fireball to take care of it, and his friends, if any friends come to join. Getting rapidly towards those 8 drops, which are the heart and soul of this deck. Well, the box that we don't talk about much is the heart and soul of the deck. But Power of Creation, Pilgrim, Freeze, that's what I mean when I say the heart and soul. And getting there quickly with coin and ramp can be a big deal. But it's not always Huffer, and on this occasion Huffer was required. Lovely clean rolling fireball here. And Dionysus is back in his chair slightly there. This is like, he's taken 5 damage and he's got through the unfair part of the game. Still plenty of work to be done. And as you can see, that work's not going to stop anytime soon from Lys. Although this turn's a bit icky. But now you're fighting a little bit more fair. Your cards start to become completely ridiculous yourself as the mage here. instantly picks up the Jigsaw Prime, which can often be a massive deal. Obviously, against Mage, they do have the ability to find ways to flame strike with Malygos and sometimes Blizzard, those sort of things. They find spells. But for now, at least, everything is under order. Let me have a quick look at the exact breakdown of how VK brought their removal for this. Yeah, so there is a natural Blizzard, there is no natural Flame Strike in the deck. A lot of people don't play either. But this is quite an old build because it's quite an old match. Last tricky turn for Lys, then things get a little bit easier again. As you can see, this curve with no Grand Slam as well is just going to be a lot of damage. And I would say at the moment that Lys is looking favoured here. But only just. I mean, look at Diana's options in a couple of turns' time with these dragons. We're going to see what some people really enjoy about Hearthstone, like big minions just clattering about into each other. But in that situation, it's usually the person who gets the first big minion down who's in the better spot, and that's looking like it will be Lys. But it's going to be close. Because now he can play Siamat to take care of the poisonous. The Divine Shield protects it from the poison, basically. As it's worded that you have to take damage. Clear up this board, and then he's into the 9-drops next turn. And he still has a taunt minion in the way to deal with Bran the Dinosaur Trader. So he's going to play Varanus and the 1-drop that shoots, whose name I can't remember and I'm embarrassed to say. It's not played in many decks. That's my excuse and I am sticking to it. This was touted as well. The reason I'm annoyed that I can't remember the name is this was touted as one of the best cards in the entire set when we did previews and such like. And we've barely seen the Guardian Org Merchant. Has barely seen any play at all. But really nice here in this combo with Varanus, and obviously in Hunter just giving something Divine Shield's quite handy as well. Nether and Damas picked up for Diana. Not messing around waiting to make this bigger, just lobbing it onto the board as an 8-8. And with the other Alex Stras that are in hand, it looks like Bone Wraith is going to be the MVP here. Because Diana's just got lethal next turn. Lys picks up a Zephrys though. And let's be clear here, Zephrys just can find Brawl. And most of the outcomes are good for Lys. So Diana has 2 8-8s. And Lys would have 2 minions. Plus Brightwing and the other 2 minions on his side, so would be 2 versus 5 in a brawl. Should Lys choose to go that way. Yeah, BGH's just too slow here, surely. And you're definitely not just defending. I think you brawl. He's making sure that BGH isn't good for him. But yeah, here we go. Whoever you're cheering on, this may well decide the game. Lys has managed to get it into a favourable. I'd like to see one of the small Diana minions win, just to keep it kind of level. That's not kind of level. That's gigantic. Diana sits forward. Breathe all that fire onto your opponent's face. Put them to 15. Hit them in the face. They're on 7. There's 2 8-8s to deal with. They couldn't deal with it last turn. Can they deal with it now? Jigsaw Prime might help with that. But then you get to follow up immediately as Diana. Oh. Now who's the mage? Lys is being forced to play like mage, and that's not where you want to be at all. Power of Creation, Caligos, Puzzle Box. Puzzle Box onto an empty board can have devastating effects. Plus we all want to see it, right? We want to see a box. Do you take a second box just in case? Like Gold Team Championship Boxing. Between two heavyweights of Hearthstone. But he didn't box. Instead he let us all down, apart from his... Plays the Power of Creation. Looks like Hogger's the best choice, which is fine, but not exciting. And now we're going to see the Grand Slam, which is like Hunter's version of the box, but nowhere near as good. I don't think it would be good enough. You don't get to clear up the damage. He's only on 7. Does anything actually work? Brand doesn't work. Finley, get yourself a Warlock power and find a new card. But what would that other card be? And it's looking for all the world like VK are going to continue their early dominance here. I mean, 3-0 is not really dominant, but it's as good as you can do. And the world champion has still not even played. Diana will play the other match this week, and I believe it is very likely that Lion will play next week. Least gives it up. Can't find any way to deal with that. A great pick from that Power of Creation. Taking the Hogger, making it impossible to win. And 3-0. Diana showing how good he is.